Hey to everyone who's watching this. I wanted to try to get a few videos out before Christmas, so just made it, I guess. So happy holidays. I hope everybody's enjoying their holiday, and hope everybody also enjoyed their Christmas and New Year's. And I'm going to get into the homeless crisis that's been going on in New York and Los Angeles and a lot of other states in this country too. But I'm just going to focus on New York and Los Angeles in particular because there's been a lot of media attention on them recently. So I'm going to begin with New York. Now, New York's mayor, Eric, I believe that's his first name, Mayor Adams, Eric Adams, he's been in office for about a year now. And so he just now came up with this proposal or plan that's called the Involuntary Removal Directive, which went into effect November 29th, so a few months ago. And basically, um, it describes the removal of certain mentally ill individuals off the streets and um, placing them into institutions involuntarily. And so, of course, it's gotten a lot of backlash from mental health advocates, um, such as the National Alliance on Mental Illness of New York, or NAMI. I believe that's what they're most commonly called. They got other organizations in Chicago and in other cities too. Um, but I'm going to get into the critics. But yeah, just to get more into this plan that Mayor Adams is talking about, more specifically, he says he's going to remove individuals who, quote, uh, who display, quote, serious untreated physical injuries, unawareness, unawareness or delusional or misapprehension of surroundings, or unawareness or misapprehension of physical condition of health. So yeah, so basically, like, I think the serious untreated physical injury speaks for itself. But what else he's talking about is like they're not; these individuals are not really like aware. They're not really aware of like how bad their mental disorder has deteriorated. They're not aware that they need help. They're not aware of their actions and how seriously their actions are affecting others, um, especially other New Yorkers have to deal with this like all the time. Like this this issue, I'm pretty sure, like, I don't really follow New York politics, but I'm pretty sure the homeless crisis in New York has been going on like for a long time, for many years, way before, I know it was before Mayor Adams got into office, like, a long time, pretty much like how long it's been going on in Chicago, and I'm pretty sure Los Angeles and other cities who are dealing with this issue too. Um, so yeah, this is what he is. These are the specific types, groups of individuals um, that he categorized as needing involuntary institutionalization, because they're not going. He knows they're not going to do that. They're not going to voluntarily uh, do this, and the longer they remain out on the streets, and the longer they remain a threat to themselves and a threat to others, then the worse this problem becomes, and the more these issues will continue to escalate. So the only issue that, and by the way, this I'm quoting this from an article from thecity.nyc, and it's updated as of December 12th of this year. Now, the only issue I have with Mayor Adams' plan is that, like I said, he's been in office for about a year now, and he's just now taken action on um, on the homeless issue in New York. And I believe he's only doing it to make himself look better, because all of this like media attention and spotlight on all of the uh, everything, like the homeless crisis over there, it's not really painting him to be like, the best mayor, the best leader. Uh, so I believe he's pretty much doing this for his benefit, because, like I said, these issues been happening long before he's been in office, and I'm pretty sure like when he campaigned to become mayor, this was um, at the top of the what do you call it? I mean, the top of the issues that the New York citizens were concerned about and wanted to be addressed. And so, I mean, I know New York is a huge city. He's probably have a lot of other things on his agenda that he needs to, take care of. But this is a pretty huge issue over there, and it should have been like one of the top, like the top five, if the top 10, not the top five, or just like the very top, but it should have been at the top of the agenda. And that means he would have taken care of this a lot sooner, instead of just waiting like a whole year of like, all of these issues continuing to build and escalate. But he did declare war on rats before he declared, like, I don't want to say a war on homelessness, but before he started addressing homelessness, he started addressing the rat issue over there first. And I mean, not that that's not a problem in New York. I mean, that's also been the rat infestation has been a problem over there for a long time too. Um, but when I was thinking about it yesterday, I was starting to make the link between homelessness uh, and the rat problem. I mean, I'm not sure if this is factual or not, but I'm pretty sure that it doesn't help the rat problem, because when you have, uh, a big population of people who they don't have access, they don't have adequate access to hygiene, or you know clean clothes, and just they can't meet their basic needs. So when you have a lot of these people on the streets, then that's going to attract rodents, and so I'm pretty sure there's a link between the rat problem and the homeless problem. um, so if he would address the homeless problem, then that would just take care of a lot of issues in New York besides the rat problem. It would help the other citizens out too, who are um, who are feeling the effects of the homeless crisis in New York. And of course, it'll help our homeless population out. Um, but yeah, get more into this plan that he has proposed, because it's experiencing some issues in the court, or that's what I read in this NYC article. Um, there are some cases that's been brought up in court, and I'm gonna get to that. Um, but yeah, I don't think he's taking it seriously. I think he's just doing this for like his benefit, um, like to make his chances greater to get reelected, um, or to help his poll numbers. But I really don't believe he really cares about the homeless. Just like a lot of other people in this country, and especially politicians. Um, All right, what else? There's more I need to get into about this proposal. Um, so I said there were some critics, and they're basically saying that, this is quote unquote inhumane, but it would be more inhumane to just like continue ignoring the problem, just leaving it as it is. I mean, just think about it. Like, America, I mean, we don't really see, I mean, there's homelessness all over the world, obviously. Um, but in one of the richest countries in the world, and then you look at other countries, they just, I mean, a lot of other countries, they don't experience the same issues with homelessness uh, as this country does. I mean, like, you look at other countries, their streets aren't filled with, panhandlers on every corner, um, people getting homeless, getting onto subways, half dressed, mentally ill, um, and stores and harassing other people. And I mean, you don't. That's more common to see in this country than I believe anywhere else in the world. Um, so yeah. So when we talk about uh, these critics, these so-called mental health advocates, and if they actually were advocates for mental health, they would be on the mayor's side in taking serious action uh, to start addressing the homelessness issue in New York. And I'm not saying that these advocates, their organizations, I'm not saying they don't do anything to help the homeless and the mentally ill. I'm pretty sure they do. It's just that they're wrong in this case and saying that the mayor's plan is inhumane. Um, it would be more inhumane to just continue to do nothing like they have done for years, leaving them, in the situations that I just described. That's what's inhumane, and to let it continue to get worse. I mean, I do have some reservations against involuntary institutionalization. Um, I guess it just depends on the institution that that you're sending them to. If you're sending them to an institution that like um, abuses patients, or like um, tries to force too many drugs on them, and like they have patients that are always drugged up, and yet their conditions aren't getting better, they're getting worse, or just like, because there are institutions like that abuse their patients. So that's the only problems I have with involuntary institutionalization. um, but I mean, that's another problem in and of itself. Then we have to talk about like um, fixing our mental health, uh, fixing our mental health system. Um, and that's another issue in this country that needs to be addressed. But for now, we have to do something. Um, and other than Mayor Adams taking like late action on this problem, I do agree with his plan overall. And yeah, so and also they're not really offering any alternative solutions. And I'm referring to the mental health advocate groups that are going against the mayor's plan. Um, I've heard them a lot of complaining, and but I haven't heard them like offer up any alternative solutions uh, to resolve this issue. So, you know, I mean, if you're gonna like complain, at least at least like bring something to the table, like offer offer like offer an idea of your own of I mean, they are mental health advocates and they work in these influential organizations to help the mentally ill. So you would think that they would be saying, "Oh, this isn't the right solution. We need to do A, B, and C." But all they're saying is, "Oh, this will hurt the mentally ill." And by the way, they're not even well. They did give reasons why, but I mean, I'll get into those reasons, but they're not they're not very logical. Uh, Sorry, flipping through my note cards. I took a lot of notes on this specific topic. So one of those reasons that they brought up um, is that they said that they were concerned that um, this would like invite police brutality. Um, I always want to bring up police brutality. If there's any issue going on in this city, it always has to be the police's problem. I mean, they always blame the police for like pretty much anything that's like a social issue in this country. Well, not anything, but like I'm just not surprised they wanted to place the blame on the police yet again. Uh, so yeah, there. I mentioned some court cases that they brought up. Let me see. So yeah, they're saying that there's been some situations where individuals under individuals who meet the criteria for the mayor's plan. Again, they can't look after themselves. They pose a threat to themselves and others. Those who fall under that category, um, they're saying some of these individuals have been violently, quote unquote, violently removed from the streets by law enforcement. Um, and I mean, I'm not saying that, those things don't happen, but that's more of an issue that deals with, I mean, because remember, our cops aren't really trained to deal with the mentally ill. They're not professionally trained to deal with them. Um, I mean, I think there have been like some training they have. I'm not sure if I think there have been like maybe, I'm not sure if in New York, but I think there have been steps taken to train more police officers to like deal with crisis intervention when it comes to the mentally ill. But like I said, I'm not sure if that's happened in New York. Um, but that could happen if you don't um, if you don't train your officers uh, to to deal with these individuals, because these are very delicate situations, and they could also turn hostile and very quickly. Um, so there's like that delicate balance um, that the cops are like very aware of, and again, like from on site when they first approach these individuals, like a lot of them can't tell that they're suffering from mental illness. So, they're trying to process this situation just like processing a non-mentally ill individual. So if they're going to get violent, they're probably going to react as they're trained, and because they're making quick decisions, they're making decisions based off of protecting themselves, protecting the citizens, and trying to in addition to trying to protect or trying to stop this individual from hurting themselves or threatening the public. So not an easy situation to deal with at all. So yeah, but I mean, in saying that, I'm just trying to say that that's where the cops are coming from in that situation. Um, like I said, that's a separate issue that needs to be handled. Like training more of our cops to. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure because who else are we gonna get? I mean, if you call 911 and it's a situation dealing with a mentally ill person, like who do you call? Do you call the cops or do you? I don't know who else you're gonna call for that situation. In one of the cases I'm going to bring up, they called the EMTs. I don't know, but that's what the cops are dealing with. Um, they're dealing with just ordinary criminals, and then they're dealing, and I had to deal with other individuals who have like who need special accommodations. So yeah, so that needs to be um, addressed. But that's not to say that our law enforcement can't deal with the mentally ill at all. It just means that they need to be trained more to deal with these individuals. It doesn't mean like what these critics what I think what these critics are saying is, you know, with every situation like this, the police are always going to abuse the mentally ill, and they're always going to handle these situations violently, and that's not the case. Um, it's just a matter of more training, um, but it can be done, and until we get alternative people to intervene in these crisis situations when you're dealing with a mentally disturbed individual, then I guess we have to start training our cops to deal with these situations too. So yeah. Well, now I'm going to get into these cases that they're talking about. I'm going to pull up this article again. There was a case involving a man that said he had PTSD and something else. I will pull up the article. But basically, um, well, I'm just going to read it off of the article. And then I'll point out some issues that I noticed, because I read this already. I'm just going to reread it for the sake of the video. Now I'm going to point out some issues that I saw in this case. Okay, where is it? It was basically saying that okay, I found it, but I'm trying to find out where it starts. Okay, I'll just start from here. In Green's case, I'm not sure what his first name is. I'm just starting from this paragraph. In Green's case, regular police officers, Emergency Service Unit, ESU, cops, and EMT showed up at his Bronx apartment in May 2020. Unbeknownst to Green, the cops were responding to a 911 call that came in as, quote, EDP, emotionally disturbed person with a gun, end quote, according to the lawsuit. When Green answered the door and stepped into the hallway, an ESU cop asked him if he was suicidal, and another cop told him his social worker had called 911 to ask police to check on him. An EMT at the scene then said he needs to go to the hospital because of the call from the social worker, whom he did not identify. Green denied being suicidal and refused to go to the hospital. When he turned and re entered his apartment, the cops followed and eventually handcuffed him. On the street, he was forcibly strapped to a gurney and placed in the ambulance. On the way to North Central Bronx Hospital, he told the EMTs that, quote, they should not barge into the apartment of someone who has PTSD because it is triggering, end quote, the lawsuit states. Okay, Green was released from the hospital a few hours after he arrived, and his lawyers say this was not a new experience for him. He had been detained against his will on 2 prior occasions, according to the suit. All right, so a couple issues here. The first is that the 911 call that was made about Green said it was an emotionally disturbed person with a gun. I think that needs to be looked into more. There just weren't enough details given about this case that are important. So, what was Green doing with the gun? Was the gun visible? Like, was he walking around in public, waving and like screaming at the sky and screaming threats? What was he like? What was he doing with the gun? Because obviously, I mean, apparently this call went out because this person who made the 911 call like noticed something like off about Green, or that, or maybe he was displaying himself in a threatening manner with the gun. He does have PTSD. So more needs to be said about like what exactly this person witnessed about Green that made them want to make that 911 call. Because that would give better insight uh, as to whether like the action that was taken against him was appropriate. Like if it was justified that he was, forcibly strapped to a gurney and then, and taken off. So more needs to be said about that. And also the other two, I think they said he had been detained against his will on 2 prior occasions, according to the suit. So what happened during those other prior 2 occasions? Again, nothing was said about that either. That's pretty significant. Was he waving a gun around again? Was he doing something else worse? Like, what was he doing that led to, him being detained on those 2 other occasions? So, what else was I going to say about this? I just lost it. I just lost it. Let me see if it's in my notes. Now, what was I going to say? It'll probably come back to me, but oh, another issue that I thought of right now while I was reading that. What is he doing with a gun in the first place? I mean, again, this is going into another separate issue on our gun laws, and how those need to be fixed too. What is a unstable individual with PTSD who has been detained 2 other times, um, and now a third time because he was being described as an emotionally distressed person with a gun? What is this person doing with a gun? Why does he have possession of a gun? Does he have a license? Um, why was he allowed to be given a license? I mean, just I mean that's the purpose of background checks, and that's this is like I said, it's a separate issue, but I mean it's still linked to this problem because I mean there are this is part of the debate. This is part of like the gun debate on gun restrictions. Um, is with mentally ill individuals who, for some reason, um, they pass a background check and are given a gun and may even have a license, and now they carry a gun, and if they go through an episode, if they decided to stop taking their medication for whatever reason, and they're in possession of a gun, and if they get triggered for any reason, that's just a recipe for disaster. So that's what else I wanted to add it to this is they should never have a gun in the first place. But all of these like points I'm bringing up, these so-called mental health advocates are not bringing up these same points because they're just interested in starting drama and saying, "Oh, these poor people, let's just continue to leave them out on the streets so they can just like it's just." That's why I said their arguments aren't making any logical sense, because it's not really about the homeless, it's just about their own interests. It's just about what they think is right and not what's actually right. And now I'm going to move on to LA. I'm done with New York for now. Um, those are all the updates that I have about what's going on with Mayor Adams' um, involuntary removal directive plan. So see if it makes any progress in the courts. For now, I'm going to move on to what's going on with Los Angeles. So Los Angeles has just elected a new mayor. Her name is Karen Bass. And when she was elected, she said on her first day in office, she would declare a state of emergency um, for the homeless crisis in Los Angeles. And she did. She didn't do it on her first day, she did it on her second day, I believe. And again, I don't believe either her or Mayor Adams care about the homeless crisis going on in their cities. For her, I mean, it's just because there wasn't. I mean, I don't think she thought it out like that carefully, um, because just declaring a state of emergency really doesn't do anything. Um, like, doesn't really do anything for this issue. There's no plan beyond that. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, okay, after you declare a state of emergency, what happens next? Because you can't. I mean, all it's doing is just announcing. It's just like reiterating that Los Angeles has a homeless problem. Um, that's, I mean, that's what I see that it's doing. But beyond that, it's not really doing anything else. Um, I also believe she did this just to get into office. This was, probably an issue that the people who voted for her, they said, we want you to deal with the homeless problem. And she's like, okay, um, I'm gonna declare a state of emergency because then that'll satisfy, you know, everybody's concerns, and then I'll get elected, and that's it. Because I haven't heard her make any like take any other steps beyond that since she declared that state of emergency. I'm, I didn't hear about it in the news. So, but I mean, if anybody has any updates, if she did anything else beyond declare a state of emergency in LA, then you can comment that in the comments. But so far, I haven't heard anything other than this. Uh, and I'm not gonna spend too long talking about um, Karen Bass in LA because she just got elected, so uh, she hasn't done much yet for a few days in office. So not really much to say about this, but I'm just predicting that like a lot of other uh, a lot of other um, liberal politicians, they aren't going to make much progress on homelessness. Uh, I mean, I'm hoping I'm proven wrong, but I don't think I will be. See if there's anything else. I didn't really write a lot of notes on this. Like I said, she just got into office, so I just wanted to, talk about that. Her declaring the state of emergency. Because I haven't heard. Oh, so I also added that this is putting a temporary fix on a long term problem, which is not how you resolve it. And that's true. Just like with New York, pretty sure Los Angeles has been dealing with homelessness for a lot longer than Karen Bass has been, like for years. And so this is considered a long term problem. And when you just put a band aid, a temporary fix, as I called it, on a long term issue, that's not going to do anything. To fix a long term problem, then you got to start thinking long term um, solutions. Because if we put a temporary fix on a long term problem, we're just going to get a temporary solution. That's not going to, it's not going to help. So what I'm trying to say is, I mean, you probably know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know, like, because I don't know. I think I'd have to look up how long, like, a state of emergency. I mean, does that just last? I mean, that doesn't last like for very long, I'd imagine. So yeah, I don't know what to say about it. I mean, just it's just if she doesn't do anything beyond that, then it's not gonna do anything for homelessness. I mean, obviously, they need um, you know, housing, job. Like these are the usual um, solutions that people put forth, and that's looking more into like long term, like jobs, a steady income, where eventually they'll be able to provide for themselves, not just temporarily, but for years to come. And that's one less person off the streets. Uh, and then eventually they'll get their own housing. So those are the goals that they should be, that the homeless should be striving for. But the thing is, reason why this issue, in my opinion, is so complex is because, you can't force people. You can't force people to work. Uh, you can't force people to stop living on the streets. So I mean, it just becomes a question of, like, what's the next approach? Like, what do you do to, like, what do you do to create an incentive for people to 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 work and, like, you know get themselves out of that situation. So that's another issue too. But let me see if I missed anything here. Well, yeah. So just to wrap that up, that's what's happening in Los Angeles and New York in terms of homelessness. But like I said, if either Karen Bass or Eric Adams really cared about the state of their cities, if they really cared about their citizens, they really cared about their homeless population, um, then they would take more action, or they would have taken action a long time ago. And some of these individuals, they need to be forcibly detained or institutionalized. It should be in a safe, um, rehabilitative environment. But some of those mentally ill individuals need that. But where they don't need to be is on the streets. That's where they don't need to be. So yeah, I think I'm gonna end it there with that one.